Welcome to the Collide Kids Podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey, y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids Podcast and happy summer. I am your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids Podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. I am so glad that you are joining us today. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. If this is your first time listening, don't forget to listen to the end of every episode. That's where we have the kids only segment where kids just like you get to be on the podcast. Well, I'm so excited that it's June. And if you have not already done so, I highly encourage you to sign up for my monthly newsletter. It actually just came out this past week because I'm behind with all things. It's the summertime. You know, we're off our routine. We've got VBS and vacations and all those fun things. And so the monthly newsletter might come out at the beginning of the month. It might come out at the middle of the month. You never know. But I've got a lot of fun content in there and some really fun ideas for your family, for your summer bucket list. So head over to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and sign up for that newsletter so you and your family can get those fun ideas. Well, I am really excited to share today's episode with you guys because it is such a privilege for me to share the story of my friend Nysi Kilgore. She's actually been on the podcast before. She was one of my first guests when I started the podcast, and I'm so glad that we're still friends and I get to share her incredible story of what God is doing in her life now. Nysi Kilgore is an entrepreneur and founder of Rooted, Anchor, and Compassion in Crisis in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, Nysi is a sought-after speaker, author, and family life educator known internationally for her pure heart, love for God, and genuine compassion for people. Nysi is passionate about teaching youth and young adults to be honest with their feelings and emotions, preparing them for life transitions, and encouraging them to adopt a lifelong love for the nature of God and having a relationship with Him. Today, Nysi is on a mission in the continent of Africa. And when I say Africa, it's because she's not just going to one place, she's going to many places, and God is using her to impact so many people there. So I cannot wait for you guys to hear about her incredible adventures and all the things that God is doing in her life. So here is my conversation with my really good friend, Nysi Kilgore. Well, Nysi, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids Podcast today.
Thanks for having me here.
Yes, I always love when I get to have my friends on the show. I'm friends with everyone. I feel like when I interview people on the podcast, they're my best friend for life, even though they might not know that. But you and I are real life friends.
We are,
Yes.
and have been for some time.
Yes. In fact, you were on the very first season of the Collide Kids podcast.
Collide Kid alumni.
Yeah.
Been here
So
before.
you get to come back and share all the updates, and I love it. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. This is going to be fun.
So would you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My name is Nysi Kilgore. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I just do so much. But the root of what I do is I work with kids and I work with parents, and I teach parents how to make sure that we're raising holistic kids and kids that think great and feel great about themselves and treat other people well. And so that's just like the root of what I do. I get to love on kids and love on families, and I get to be a part of so many different families.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, I'm excited to talk with you because you are about to go on a huge adventure.
I am.
And I think so many of our listeners are going to really enjoy hearing this story. But before we get into that, because this is a show for kids, we always like to share a joke. So do you have a joke for us today?
I do have a joke. I hope it's funny. Okay, here we go. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Peas.
Peas who?
Peas and thank you are the magic words.
That's true. Peas and thank you are the magic words.
There are kids at home right now saying, this lady's lame.
Or they might be using that joke later.
They might be using it later.
That's right.
Either one's
That's right.
acceptable.
Peace and thank you. That's right. I love it. I love it. Well, so let's talk a little bit about your story. So the last time you were on the show, you shared a lot about friendships. And I love that we were able to talk about friendships. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about this big adventure that you have coming up. Tell our listeners what's happening in your life and what you're about to go do.
Yes. So in literally about 10 days, this is crazy to think about, 10 days, I will hop on a plane and I have a one-way ticket to the continent of Africa, and I will be living there for about 11 months doing missions work. And so I will be able to use all the skills that I have that I use here with families and with kids and with grownups, and I will be able to use them for Jesus and to serve other people in Tanzania, Namibia, South Africa, and Swaziland, or it's been recently changed to Eswatini is the name of the country now. And so, yeah, I get to go and do that and help in some different orphanages and some different churches and different organizations, all the things for about a year.
That is so cool. And I'm so excited for you because I think Africa does not know what is happening. The force that is about to come with Nysi showing up. So I love that you said earlier, like God is taking all the things that you've been doing and he's going to use that in Africa. So talk about that a little bit. What are the things that you've been doing so far that are leading to this trip?
Yeah. So like I said, I work with families. And so I have 2 degrees right now. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and then I have another master's degree in marriage and family studies. And so basically what that equips me with is a lot of knowledge about kids and how kids think and how they process things and how their emotions work. Because sometimes as grownups, we can think about kids as if they're grownups, but they're not. And we treat them like they're grownups, but they're not. And so people like me get to come in and remind the grownups, hey, this is just a kid. They're not a grown up.
Yeah.
And let me teach you how they're thinking about things so that you can help them become the best version of themselves. And so I've been able to conduct classes for families. I've been able to go into their homes and work with them on a daily basis. I've been able to help with schools, and I've been able to help with organizations and help them create systems within organizations and within schools to help them run smoothly and efficiently in a way that helps kids. And so all those skills that I have, all those things that I've been using, going into people's homes, helping these organizations, starting these programs, having these classes, I get to go and use those skills now at these orphanages that need systems to be put in place. And they need classes for the adults and the communities. And they need lessons for church leadership and kids ministry people. And so I get to use these skills that I have and then help people who might not have access to people with these skills otherwise. And so every little thing, even being a big sister, you know what I mean? I've been caring for other people that are younger than me my whole life. Well, at least for my brother's 24. So at least for the last 24 years, I've been helping care for other younger people. And I get to go be a big sister to kids who need it, or be like an auntie to kids who need it. I have 2 nephews that I get to love on, and I get to go do that for other kids too. So I get to be a part of a community of people and do what I do here. I'm part of a lot of people's villages here, and I get to go be in an actual village and be a part of a lot of figurative villages as well. And so every little piece of my life, you know, God wastes nothing. Even the things that we don't think are important. We might not think it's important to be a sister in a family. Or we might not think it's important to be a daughter in a family. But God uses all of those things because we learn things. We learn lessons through those roles in our lives. And so God uses the lessons that we learn through those roles, and He uses them to equip us, to make us who He wants us to be and for who we're going to become and what He has for us to do.
Yes. It's so cool. And I love that you said that God doesn't waste anything. All the things that we have, things that we think don't really matter a whole lot, they matter to God and they matter to someone else. And so, so being the best sister and the best daughter and the best worker or whatever you're doing, do it as unto the Lord, do it with all your heart. And then He's going to take that and use that in a different way some other day. And so I love that. Good encouragement. Okay, so what's cool about what you're doing, we had lunch a while back and you're sharing this story and I was like, this is amazing, because most people that go on trips like this to another country or another continent, you know, they're connected with a ministry and they're going over with a big group of people, but you're not going with a big group of people. You're going by yourself. And I'm like, first of all, what does your mom think of this?
She's been crying for like 2 weeks. Like the closer we get to the day, she's like,
Yes.
But like she's also like okay and settled, because while I am traveling by myself, again, God wastes nothing. My parents are pastors, and if you go back to other seasons, I probably have mentioned it that my parents are in ministry, and they themselves have done missions for years. And
Yeah.
so it's so cool that the people that I'm connecting with in these other countries are people that my parents know and they met and they love and they have relationship with. So while I'm traveling by myself, I'm going to meet up with people who are basically like family. And my parents
Nice.
have been able to like lay foundations for these relationships and things like that. And so while they are like sad that I'm leaving, they also feel super comfortable because they know who I'm going to and who I'll be meeting up with and things like that. And so, yeah, I am going by myself though. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and like kind of like God just pieced it all together because the people in the different countries don't know each other. However, like when we reached out or when I reached out to just try to see like, okay, God, like, what would you have for me to do? They all had the same need. They're like, you know, like we need someone to come do child therapy with the kids, and we need someone to come and help us with our system work, and we need someone to come and do classes for these adults. I'm like, I kid you not, all the conversations are the exact same. And so like it got to the point when I call people like, hey, let me guess, you have an orphanage or like a safe house that you need like child therapy for. I'm like, yeah, how did you know? You
Yes.
wouldn't believe me if I told you.
That's right.
And so I'm going by myself, but I'm going into a network that the Lord set for me. And honestly, sometimes that's better than even going with a big organization that's super connected and super, you know, all the things. Like being within God's network is so much better than being in an established network that we might have here, you know, because the network that God has and the way that God connects things and pieces things together is way better than we could ever do.
That's good. I heard a pastor say once that the safest place for you to be is in the center of his will.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're doing the thing that God's called you to do and you're going out, even if it's somewhere scary or somewhere dangerous or somewhere unknown, you're still safe because God is taking you there and he's going to walk with you every step of the way. And so, yeah, I think that's amazing. So let's talk about where this all came from. Why are you going to Africa? How did this get started?
I'm in love with Eat, Pray, Love. Like
Okay.
the book and the movie with Julia Roberts. And you know, I went through like a rough season in my life. And then when I came out on the other side of it, I was like, you know, I need to find myself. I've always loved traveling. It's always been for missions, really, except for like 10% of the time. But I've loved traveling. I was like, I'm going to do like Julia Roberts, and I'm going to go 3 months in Europe, and I'm going to go 3 months in Asia, and I'll do 3 months on the continent of Africa because, you know, that is my continent of choice. And I was like, I'm gonna be the mission this time. I'm going to focus on me. I'm not going to go serve other people. I'm going to serve myself. Ha ha, ha ha ha. That sounds very godly. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that was my thought. Like, you know, like I'm going to pour into myself, which also is not a bad thing to pour into yourself. You should pour into yourself. But also there is a satisfaction and a level of settling that comes with being in God's will and being what God has created you for that you wouldn't find anywhere else. That level of satisfaction and peace and pouring into yourself, you get that naturally when you do what God has called you to do. And so I kind of just like, you know, started planning, and I included Africa because I was like, you know, if the goal of this trip is to find myself again, then like I'm not going to not do what I feel like is innate for me, which is serving people. So it's like, I have to go to Africa. I have to see my people. I have to serve. And so it was kind of just in the back of my head, but I had not started to plan it out, to be honest. And then one night in September, I couldn't sleep, and I just kept thinking about the orphanage. It's called Village of Hope in Tanzania, and I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning. So I was like, I'm just going to send Mama Helen a message. And Mama Helen was the lady that had started the Village of Hope orphanage. And so I texted her and I was like, hey, I'm just like up tonight praying for you guys. I hope you're doing well. By the way, I'm planning this trip. I'd love to come and stay for a month. Do you guys have a need? And she immediately texted me back within 10 minutes, which never happens. And was like, I was literally just praying that the Lord would bring you back. And that, and that I would be able to see you again and you'd be able to come back. And she was like, I'm so glad that God let me live to see my prayers answered. Of course you can come for as long as you want. There's definitely a need for you here. And Mama Helen was in her 80s, so she was an older woman. So when she just said that she was glad that God let her live, you know, like she was older. So I was like, whoa. And so that kind of just like snowballed this plan. And as soon as she said it, honestly and truthfully, I was like, I need to be doing this as a missions trip and not a trip for myself. But I fought that because, again, I'm the mission. This is about me. I'm the mission, not other people, me. And so we started planning. This was 2023. I went to Cape Town that year just to visit some friends. Had not been in a while since the pandemic. And when I was there, I asked them about coming for a month, and they were like, yeah, for sure. And at the end of the trip, they kind of sat me down and was like, how would you feel about coming for more than a month? And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And they just kind of broke down to me that, they really needed help with executing the mission because they're family-ran churches. They're not a part of big denominations. And so they don't have a lot of help, a lot of volunteers. And they work full-time jobs as well. And there's no way for them to fully invest in how they feel the Lord is asking them to show up missions-wise, while also working to keep the lights on in the church. Like the two, it's a conflict. It's hard. And, in a lot of those countries, a good middle-class income with 2 parents in the house that work is $1,200 US, which is not a lot for us.
Wow.
At all.
Right.
That's like a monthly combined income for 2 people is $1,200 US for the month. And, we asked them while we were there to cover a food kitchen for them for the week. They feed people throughout the week that live in poverty. And I was like, how much is it? And they were like, well, it's $50. And I was like, 50 of your dollars or like 50 of my dollars? And they were like, $50 US. I said, but we just have to fed like hundreds of people for the week. And they were like, yeah, I did the calculations. 50 of their dollars feeds about 10 people. 50 of their dollars equates to $2.77 for us.
Wow.
And so legitimately, it feeds 200 to 300 people depending on what the meal is for the days, but $50 feeds them for the week.
Wow. That's amazing.
And so I got home and I kind of was like, okay, what am I doing? I'm sitting here talking about blowing this money to like make myself the mission because like Europe for 3 months, that's not cheap.
Right.
And I was like, I'm talking about blowing this money for myself when I could really be investing and diving into what the Lord has for me. So I made the decision that that's what I was going to do. I was just going to give the whole trip to the Lord. I opened my hands. I said, okay, God, whatever you want me to do, however you want me to do this, I will. January of 2024, we started doing a budget of like what I would need because to do missions for a year is going to be way more than just to like lollygag in Europe for, which I didn't really know how I was going to pay for that either, but big dreams, live, laugh,
right,
love,
I love it. Yes.
We started like budgeting and everything, and the Lord just started having things fall into place. I went back to college to finish, and in the middle of January 2023, I got a call that Mama Helen had passed away unexpectedly.
Aww.
And it was very sad, and I had a lot of questions for God because I could not understand why he told me to go and why he had her so hopeful that I would come if he knew she wasn't going to be there when I got there. It was really confusing. I was like, so do I still do this trip? Because like my brain says, if one leg of the trip doesn't work, throw the whole trip in the trash. Because like if one piece doesn't fit, then the rest of it must not be. But I got a call about 2 weeks after she passed. I said, hey, we need you now more than ever.
Yeah.
The kids need therapy. And we need help with these systems. And Mama Helen had a great heart, but she did not keep good records. And so we need someone who knows how to put record systems into place and go do house visits. So everything that I had been studying since July of 2023, really, they were like, hey, we need this. And so it was like really clear and evident that this is what God had for me to do. And then shortly thereafter, I started fundraising, found out that I needed about $30,000 to do this trip well. The end of February, I got February 27th to be exact. I got my first donation. So today's May 24th. So almost 3 months later. And I'm only $1,900 away from my $30,000 goal.
Wow. That's amazing.
Within 3 months. And so God has just kind of been walking with me. And then the funny thing is I am still the mission because through this, he has grown my faith and my relationship with him has gotten stronger. And I have experienced a happiness and a joy and a peace that I've not experienced before. Everything that I was looking for, I found it just by saying yes to what he had for me to do.
Oh, I love that.
Like the creator of the universe sees me as his mission. And that's just better than me being my own mission any day.
We'll be right back after this. You know, raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices.
I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
Absolutely. It makes me think of that verse in Psalms 37. I think I keep talking about this verse. It keeps coming up that God gives us the desires of our heart.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's always just like, these are the things that I want. I'm going to lay them out in front of God and he's going to give them to me. It means he's going to plant things inside of us.
Yes.
And then he's going to bring it to fruition. So like the things that God puts in you that you love, those are gifts from God. And so I love that you said when you gave your yes to God, then he fulfilled all the things that you were wanting before, more so. And you haven't even gone on the trip yet.
I haven't. And the thing about it is, like, God just really brings things full circle. I found since I was young, like since I was a kid, when people asked me what I wanted to be, I'd say I wanted to be a mom and I want to be a veterinarian because that's what I thought I wanted to be for forever. But I would always like follow it up with, but what I really want to do is I really want to have an orphanage. That's what I really want to do. And that's always been my thing. And then this past Sunday, I found a journal from maybe 2018, 2019. In the first page of the journal, there's a header and it says, I actually posted on Instagram, but there's a header that says like meaningful work for me. And the first thing is a youth encourager. The second thing is a mom. And the third thing is I want to work at an orphanage.
Nice.
And so for God, and I said it in the post, I was like, I get to hold these dreams in my heart. And that is a beautiful thing. But I'm so aware that they're not mine. They're his. And he's given them to me to hold and to be a part of. And that is an honor. Like I get to hold God's dreams in my heart and live them out. Like that is beautiful. That's a beautiful thing to have. And it's a beautiful thing that like he plants these things in our hearts and he has them to happen for us. If we're willing to say yes, if we're willing to open our hands to it and willing to carry them, like he will make it happen for us.
Yeah. So true. And it's so cool that you get to go and do this. Like I also think too about all the people that think a mission trip is where you go and you either build something or you tell people about Jesus, which are incredible things.
Yes.
But sometimes God needs people to go and to organize a computer system or to organize a filing drawer. I have a really good friend who moved to Papua New Guinea and she worked for years and she was helping them with their accounting. So she was in this beautiful country surrounded by all this amazing jungle and she was helping them with accounting things for the organization she worked for. So God takes all the things we're good at. He can use anybody with any skill, whatever he's created you to do, he can use that. And so I love that you're going to go and encourage people and pour into kids and help them organize. Just like, that's so great.
And that's like things that make my heart like, because also on that list, like if my name is Nysi Kilgore on Instagram, if you're a grown up and you want to go and look up that list, but like also at the bottom of that list, it says that meaningful work for me is administration work. Literally, God will take all of your desires and your skill. No, literally, Christen, I read that list and my mind was blown because I was like, this just sounds like the next year of my life.
Right. I'm doing all the things I wrote on the list. I'm doing
all the things I wrote on the list. Like, this is crazy to me. Like, you know what I mean? And so, like, God will use any gift, any skill. Don't discredit anything that God has placed in your life. Any gift, skill, talent that God has given you can be turned and used for his glory as long as you submit it to him and allow him to use it.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not preaching on the stage, I will be doing that. You know what I mean? People have been asking me and calling me and saying, hey, will you come speak at this women's ministry thing? And hey, will you come preach at this church? And if you're in country, can you come do this? And I'm like, hey, God, I didn't say yes to that. And he's like, yes, you did because you said yes to me.
That's right.
And so when you say yes to him, just let him use anything.
Yeah.
Let your yes be non-negotiable.
That's
Put it on the table and don't take it off. And no matter what he asks you to do or what he tells you to go, if you just continue to say yes, he will use even the most frivolous thing. The things you don't think he'll use, and he'll use it for his good.
Absolutely. And I love Priscilla Shire as a Bible study leader. And she said, surrender is giving God your yes before you know what the question is.
Oh, yes.
You know, like when you have those friends are like, hey, will you do me a favor? And you're like, tell me what it is first before I agree to it. But for God, if God says, I'm calling you to do something, he's calling you to say yes. And then he'll tell you what it is. That's hard.
It's very hard because his ways are higher than ours and his thoughts are better than ours.
Yes.
And so a yes to Jesus will never lead you the wrong way. Even if it feels scary and hectic for a second there,
Yes.
it'll never lead you the wrong way. And honestly, it feels scary and hectic because we're still trying to control what's happening.
Right.
If we just let go of control and just let it happen, it wouldn't feel so scary and hectic.
That's right. We make it scary when God's like, I've got this.
God's not scared.
That's right.
And I keep telling myself, God's not wondering where the rest of this money is coming from. God's not wondering what's going to happen when I get there. God knows. And if God knows, there's a settling and a peace that I can have because God knows. God is not up at night wondering, did I remember to pack every single thing? God is settled. God is peace. And so I can partake in that.
Right.
If I choose to.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, okay, let me ask you a few things about Africa because I'm interested. So,
yes.
Are all the countries you're going to visit, do they speak English or do you have to learn a new language?
All of them do have English as like their second language. In South Africa, they speak Afrikaans, which is a mix of languages. So it's a mix of Dutch and French and some other languages. And so I know a little bit of Afrikaans right now.
Okay.
But I'll learn more. I have been learning Swahili.
Okay.
Since about January.
I know Hakuna Matata.
That means no worries.
That means no worries.
That means no worries, So I've been practicing Swahili because it is the number one language in Tanzania. And
Nice.
I'll be doing a lot of home visits and a lot of school visits in Tanzania. So I just want to make the people as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
Even if I don't know all the words, I want to be able to walk in and say good morning and introduce myself and, all the things. But everywhere does speak English, and I'll have interpreters everywhere, so I will be okay.
That's good. That's good. You got to get the Google Translate downloaded on your phone. It also helps with like menus. Like if you go to a restaurant, you can hold the phone. Oh, you can scan the menu with Google Translate, and it translates it for you. Yes, very helpful. So then all you do is just point to the thing you want in the menu for the waiter, and they're like, okay. And so that helps you order.
I love that.
Yeah. So get Google Translate. That's helpful.
Tips and tricks.
That's right. Well, I am so excited for you. I think this is so incredible that God's going to use you and you're going to go and help these organizations and these orphanages so that they can flourish and they can help more people. So the things you're going to plant for that 11 months, they're going to carry out for so much longer. So I love that you're leaving behind a great legacy as you go. And so how can our listeners support you if they're interested in helping you meet your goals or following along with you?
Yes. They can go to www.rooted, ROOTED, anchor, like an anchor on a ship, .com /compassion in crisis. And on that website, you can see what supplies I need because I'm trying to take supplies with me. You can sign up to give monthly or a one-time donation. You can sign up for the newsletter. I'll have a newsletter going out. And so you can sign up to just figure out and hear about like what's happening and all the things. And that's the best way to keep in contact. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can too. I'll be posting updates there when I can. My Instagram handle is @Nysi Kilgore. Super simple, NYSI Kilgore, and you can follow me there. And yeah, that's the best way to keep up. If you want to partner financially, that's the best way to do it. But honestly and truthfully, more than anything, I'd love prayers.
Yes.
Because I mean, like, this is a big life change for me, but I want to keep my hands open to what the Lord is asking. And I want to keep my heart tender to his voice. I want to keep my ears clear. And I want to be open to how he's also going to change me through this. Like, yes, I'm going to impact these people. I pray that they're impacted by the power of God, but also I'm not so naive to think that I won't also be impacted and changed for the better. Like, I'm not coming in as some savior. I'm coming in as someone who's like, hey, we're both about to be changed by God. Right. Let's do it. Like, God's about to change both of our lives for the better. Let's do this. And so keep me in prayer. And it's going to be sad. I've never been away from my family for this long. I've never been away from America for this long. So this will be interesting. So this that God will be with me because there will be a time I know where the excitement wears off and I want to come home to my mom. Yeah. And there will be no coming home to my mom. And so all the prayers.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be praying for you and for your mom.
Thank you. She'll need it.
That's good. And we'll put that website in our show notes so that people can go to the link and click that and find your information. Well, this has been so fun. Before I let you go, I always ask my guests to tell me a memory from when they were a kid. The last time you told a memory, you talked about your little dog, which was a very sad story. I hope people will go back and listen to that episode. And then I had your brother on a few episodes later, and he shared the same memory. And I was like, I got to stop you right there. Nysi already told that one. And so it was a big deal in your family life. But do you have another memory you want to share with us?
Sure. Okay. I come from a very musical family. My dad's family, there's hundreds of people. My grandfather had 9 siblings, and all those kids had kids, and those kids had kids too. And so family reunions are 150 people, no joke.
Wow.
And we all are musically inclined in some type of way. To be a Kilgore means you're either musical or athletic.
Oh,
or both.
wow.
And so it's so big that we have our own family choir. Okay. So there's enough of us to make a choir, a full choir of altos, sopranos, and tenors. And then family members also make up the band. So there's 4 saxophone players, 3 drummers, 5 pianists.
Take that on the road.
So my siblings and I, in our very young age, when we didn't have jobs and money to make Mother's Days and Father's Days really full and fun, we would always get together and make a play or a musical for our parents, and we perform them on Mother's Day and Father's Day, and that would be their Mother's Day and Father's Day gift. We'd get up in front of them, and my sister would play the guitar. There's air quotes happening here because homegirl cannot play the guitar. But she would play the guitar, and my brother would beat on something, and I would sing, and it would be horrible. But they sat there like troopers, and they ate it up, and they took it.
I bet it didn't sound horrible. I bet it was great.
Oh, it did. It sounded a mess. It sounded a mess. But they were troopers, and they ate it up. And
That's
so,
good.
we used to do it all the time. We should do it again this year before I leave.
Yes,
one more time for the road.
Do it. And please record it.
Really cool. And post on social media. It'll go viral on
TikTok.
That's
right. Well, Nysi, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was so good. And we will definitely be praying for you and your trip. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. I'll follow up with you guys when I get back.
Yes, please do. I really am so excited about the adventure that Nysi has started and all the things she's going to be able to do to encourage so many people in these different countries in Africa. She will be able to connect with children through therapy and also use her gifts of organization and administration to help these orphanages and ministries set up better systems to keep things organized. It's such a need, and I love that she's able to do that. Nysi said, God wastes nothing. And I love that. I've heard that so many times in different episodes, and I love that she shared that too. It's so true. All the experiences and the work and the education that Nysi has had, it works out perfectly for this mission and what the needs are in the areas she will visit. I love that Nysi has raised the money, not just to cover her needs and travel costs, but also so that she can invest and be able to bless the people she interacts with as she chooses. Nysi said, God will take all of your desires and use any gift or skill that he has placed in you and use it for his glory when you surrender it to him. She said, don't discredit anything God has placed in your life. When you say yes to God, just let him use anything in you. Let your yes be non-negotiable. I love that. I will be sure to put her website in the show notes, rootedanchor.com. And I encourage you to go sign up for her newsletter so you can learn all about the things that God will be doing in these next 11 months with Nysi Kilgore. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. So check out this joke from my friend Blake.
Hi, I'm Blake, and this is my joke. Why did the cookie go to the doctor? Because he felt crummy.
Oh, that's a classic. Feeling crummy. Great job, Blake. Thank you so much for sharing that. Hey, if you would like to be on the podcast just like Blake was, I would love to hear your favorite joke or maybe a Bible verse that you love or a fun quote from a book or movie. Just head over to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the tab that says Kids Only, and you can record it right there. It's really easy to do. Or you can send it to me through my social media. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. And I would love for you to follow me there. I share lots of things about my guests, about fun things coming up, and giveaways. So you want to be a part of that, you definitely want to follow me on those two social media platforms. If you like support the podcast, there's a few ways you can do that. You can subscribe and follow this podcast, leave a rating and a review. You can share this episode with friends and family so they can learn more about why you love the show. And anytime you think about it, I always appreciate your prayer support as well, especially as we go into the next month. We have one more episode left, and then the month of July and a few weeks in August, we will be taking a Sabbath break where we will be just spending some time resting and thinking and praying and looking to God to see what comes next for the Collide Kids podcast. So I would love for you to pray for that if you are praying for our show. Well, I hope today's episode has inspired you to give your yes to God. Go do something awesome for Him. Use your talents and gifts, whatever you have, to give Him glory and to help other people. In case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between. And all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.